Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining another episode of Celeste the Therapist podcast. My name is Celeste. I am a therapist from Boston. I come on, I talk to people who are doing things to empower the lives of others by sharing their story. And I'm so excited to have Regina on. I want you to introduce yourself to my audience, please.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Miss Regina Saunders. I am the founder and CEO of Queen's Mentality Empowerment Coaching for Black Women. I'm also the host of the Let Me Fix My Crown podcast. My mission is to help uplift, educate, and encourage women to love themselves better through, mastering their mindsets, as well as reclaiming power over their life, moving past their past, and upgrading their mentality.
Thank you so much for being here. So, I love hearing about what people do, but I can't like start there. I would love to hear about like how you ended up in this path because I think a lot of times people may look at people like you and I and say like, wow, like I wish I can do that. And I'd be like, you can do that. So what is it about Coach G? By the way, her name is Regina Saunders, but people call her Coach G. What is it about Coach G that has allowed you to be where you are today?
It's been a heck of a journey. I'm going to let you guys know that straight off the rip. Um, I grew up in the South Bronx, and I wasn't always afforded, the opportunity to go to like a fancy school or to have like, to be able to go to like sleepaway camps. You had to find, your way out some way, some type of escape. And I always told myself that I never wanted to be a stereotype. I never wanted to be what these people thought that I would always turn out to be, which was somebody's baby mama or, a trap queen, a welfare queen, those negative connotations that you see or you hear about when you look at Black women. I never wanted to be those things. And so I started to build myself up, build my self-esteem, build my confidence all throughout high school because, at that very prime age, you really start discovering yourself and who you want to be.
But when you say I started to build myself up, like what would that realistically look like for somebody that may understand what you're talking about in regards to struggling with the stereotypes and even not just stereotypes, but reality is that some people that's all they see, right? Like
Mhm.
we continue the cycle. So what does build myself up look like for you?
Well, for young Regina, because it's two different Reginas, but for young Regina, building herself up was, um, writing, reading, taking trips to the museum, surrounding myself with, like-minded people. I had one friend in high school who's very intellectual. He was a male, and his mother was an English teacher. And I spent a lot of time with him, and he helped me grow, educationally. I read a lot of books. I started to write a little bit more, and I started to mentor people, which I didn't know I had it in me, which now we flip over to adult Regina, whereas I do a lot of positive self-talk. I do a lot of positive self-talk. I do a lot of coaching, mentoring, and I also do a lot of self-reflecting and meditation. And my self-reflection journey started back in 2016 when I started to do self-memos as journaling. Um, I was coming out
Wait,
of
before you tell me about the self memos, I want to
Mhm,
just go back really quick to the surrounding myself with like-minded people.
mhm.
Because everything that you talked about, writing, reading, all of that has to do with environment.
Yes.
Um, and I know that that's challenging for some people to surround themselves with like-minded people when a lot of times your immediate circle are not where you want to be. What does that look like for people and how powerful it is to be able to get around people that where you aspire to be like?
To be honest with you, it was hard because the generation that I grew up in, you either was a blood or a crip. Um, you were in some type of gang. You were, riding dirt bikes and things like that. I just had to filter myself, filter the people that I was around, and tell myself that because I wanted better, I had to do better. And so that young man, he kept me focused for a very long time. Now, don't get me wrong, the girls that I hung out with, I was a positive, in their life, and I helped them grow as well. So I didn't turn my backs on them. They still my friends to this day. But I also needed him and other people to also grow into the person that I am today. So I thank them all for helping me and blossom and molding me into the queen that I am today.
I love the fact that you said it was hard.
Hmm.
I think that, when we are in this place now and we're pretty consistent in what we do, I think people think that it's just been easy for us. And I think that it's actually hard. It's hard to do the opposite of what you've known to be true or what you've been exposed to.
Yeah.
It's actually easier to stay in a stuck place. To
Yeah.
get unstuck is actually harder to do, but doing it is there's so much reward behind it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. I do agree.
So now, like we talk about adult Regina, and
Hmm.
then you're journaling, doing these self memos. Tell people what that looks like. What is a self memo?
My self-reflection memos was something that I started in 2016. I was coming out of a breakup and I was in this dark place. And so what I started to do for myself to encourage myself and to build myself back up is I started to talk to myself. Now, I know it sounds weird. Talk to yourself. No, I'm not crazy, but I started to record myself on my phone using my iPhone and talking to myself and telling myself how I was feeling and telling myself, positive things. And then later on in the week or during the weekend, I would go back and I would listen to the things that I said to myself. And then I would physically write them down in the journal. I used both of these methods, which were very therapeutic to me, because I needed to reflect. That's what my self-reflecting journey was all about. It was to look deeper within myself, to find those little cracks, those little breaks, so that I can help mend myself back together. I find journaling very self-soothing. It helps me with my thoughts and the clutter in my head a lot. And so I do it often, even as a coach, even as somebody that's pursuing their master's in mental health counseling right now. Journaling is like my go-to right now. I journal every day. I actually created a journal.
Oh, you did for people to buy.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, okay, okay. So we'll talk about that. But when it comes to going backwards and re-listening to what you wrote or what you said, was that a challenging process? Because that's something I try to get people to do because of how far they've come. Is that challenging for you?
It was. It was
Okay.
challenging. And it's still challenging because sometimes you listen to yourself in those dark places and you're like, well, how did I get there? How did I get there? And
Mhm.
how did I pull? And I'm happy I pulled myself out, but how did I pull myself out? And so you get to a place where you sit and you listen to yourself. And I want to say that sometimes I felt sad listening, going back and listening to myself. Even when I was in a positive state, I felt sad, because I just didn't understand, how did I let myself get that bad?
Thank you for sharing that. And even though feeling sad is hard, like as a therapist, like and
Mhm.
you as a coach, like sitting with people sometimes can feel hard. But the powerful thing about that is that we are being mindful and we are paying attention to what's happening, because what ends up happening is those moments end up creating something different, like where these faulty
Yes.
thoughts start coming. We may not do certain things, we may not be alignment with our purpose, but we
Hmm.
don't understand why. We know there's more out there for us, we know we want more, but we can't understand or fathom like why we can't get to that place. And a lot of times it's because of these negative thoughts that like are, like you said, the clutter that's happening just becomes background noise, and it
Hmm.
ends up dictating like the way that we live our life. Do you know that to be true?
Yes, I agree with that. A lot of
Mhm.
background noise, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of fears, a lot of, other people's opinions, comparison. You're constantly masking yourself and, trying to make yourself into someone that you're not. It's a lot of conflict within yourself, and you just have to try and overcome that, but being authentic, just being
Mhm.
who you are, and accepting that
Mhm.
we're not perfect. We're not
Mhm.
perfect beings. We're made in his image, but nobody said that he was perfect.
Yeah. And when you said masking yourself, what does that look like? Because I think a lot of people do that. We're in these circles we don't
Ooh.
need to be in. We are in places that don't fit us. And if we're, let's say we're a triangle, or we're a circle trying to fit in a triangle. Like we really ain't we ain't really supposed to be there. Where it's a completely different shape. Like you can clearly know the difference between a triangle and a circle. But like I think our insides, like our inner self knows that's not where we're supposed to be, but then
Hmm.
we form ourselves to fit there and we're so uncomfortable. Talk to people a little bit about what that looks like when we're masking.
Whoa, wow. A masking. So if you guys don't know what masking is, we're about to break it down. Masking is trying to portray yourself as something that you are not. So I see a lot of this on social media. Everybody's copying. It's like this copy and paste world, cookie cutter situation that's going on. And that's no shade to anybody that's out there doing it. I just call it how I see it. Where we're not comfortable with who we are. We're not accepting who we are. So we put these masks on to make everybody feel or see everything's okay. So like if Regina came outside every day with this smile on and I'm like, hey guys, I'm so happy. This is just the greatest life ever. Everything is glitz and glamour. Actually, it's not, because deep down inside, that person is suffering from depression. That person is suffering from, thoughts of suicide. That person is suffering from, emotional abuse or sexual abuse, some type of trauma, unhealed wounds. We don't know. But yet everybody is glitz and glamour, perfectly polished on the outside, but broken on the inside. And that is masking to me. I always have to tell my clients that you need to work on the inner you before you can work on the outer you. Right now we live in a time and a society whereas everybody is made over. Everything is build a body or makeup and things like that, but they don't take the time to work on their inside, the inner them. I always say focus on the inner you, and then you can work on the outer you, internal and then external.
Yes, I love it. Cause imagine if we were just getting our get putting makeup on, never getting the physical, bleeding on the inside. Like we're not gonna be able to continue to live that way. And I
No,
always say that it takes a lot more work to to be who you're not than it is just to be who you are. And granted, it can be hard to get to that process. And again, I never want to present anything as if it's just like just be who you are. I get that when you've been living a certain way for so long that it's just become your norm. But I promise you, you're putting in a lot more effort trying to be somebody that you're not than just to be who you are.
I agree.
And when it comes to all of the things you talk about that people are struggling with, tell
Hmm.
people how powerful it would be if we can be honest with ourselves and each other. And then, we're not struggling alone. What do you think about that?
I think that everybody everybody is struggling with something, and just hearing that, it makes you feel like you're a part of something. Nobody is perfect. Nobody has this perfect life. Despite what they may portray, they don't. And that's okay. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be 100 all the time. It's okay to be a human being and not a robot. Those things are okay. So when I speak about, mental health, I speak from a place of experience. I speak from a place because I see it every day on my 9 to 5. People struggling with who they are, but they don't really want to talk about who they are, what they're fighting, the demons that they're fighting. Everybody's fighting something, and it's okay. But being a part of a community where people are struggling with some of the same things you're struggling with helps you grow. It helps you feel normal. We start to normalize that, because if we start to normalize that everybody has a problem, everybody wouldn't be trying to be perfect all the time.
Facts. That's why I love having people like you on. And for a long time I was on before the podcast, I would just go on social media just to talk about mental health. But coming from a therapist, they're like, oh, well, you're a therapist. Not everybody, but I know in the back of their heads, it's like,
Mhm.
So I said, let me just have other people come on that are doing different things to empower people in different capacities. And that we didn't just start here. Like this is not how we started. Now, with you talking about community and this passion for people, how did you branch into Let Me Fix My Crown? Like, what was that like transition like? Because I'm sure, like you said early on in your life, you realized like you were able to help mentor people, and like you've always had it in you. How did you transition to this person that you are now?
Oh wow. So like I said in the beginning, I was going through like a terrible breakup, and I was still finding myself discovering the adult Regina. And I was watching I think it was Black Girls Rock. I was watching.
Side note, I had Dr. Joy. She did therapy for Black girls.
I
I had,
know.
oh, okay. I had her on my podcast, and that's how she started therapy for Black girls,
Oh
watching
really?
Black Girls Rock. Hmm. Yep.
Oh yeah, I love Dr. Joy. But I was working with people with, so I work in the mental health profession.
Hmm.
I haven't received my L yet, so I'm not a clinician as of yet, but working towards it.
Nice.
And seeing some of the people that, I interact with, I was like, it would be, I want to do this. I want to do this long term, but I want to do it at a different capacity. And I was looking at Black Girls Rock, and I was like, oh wow, I want to talk to my girls. I want to talk to my queens. I want to do this. I
Yep.
want to encourage. I want to empower. And so from 2016 to maybe 2018, I was having like these weird visions, these callings, these pulls to do something bigger. And what that looked like for me, if y'all guys don't know what a calling is um, I was dreaming of standing on a stage, and I was looking out to the audience, and everybody looked like me. They were melanated, they were powerful, they were strong, they were women, they were men. I was in a room full of people like myself, and I was so comfortable. It was so raw. And I took that message as a message from God that said that, hey, listen, I have equipped you with everything that you need to go out in this world and do my life purpose. I want you to use your voice to uplift other women. I want you to empower them and bring them out of their dark spots. I want you to help them heal. I want you to do this, not just in your regular 9 to 5 profession, because I already do that. He said, I want you to use it this way. And
Wow.
so I started the transition into that. I went to a women empowerment brunch, and it was called Moving on Your Vision.
How
Um,
long after the dream? How long after that did you go to
two
the brunch?
years. two
Oh,
years. It was
wow.
it was a lag because I was procrastinating. I wasn't procrastinating. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna tell you exactly what I was doing. I was scared. I was fearful. I
Oh,
didn't.
really?
Yeah, that's what that was. That was my fear. That was my self-doubt, because I would see the vision often, and I would, do little things like I was telling you about my voice memos. What I would do is I would practice, and I would send the voice notes to my friends. And they were like, oh, Gina, you got a podcast. You got a podcast. And I'm like, I don't know the first thing about a podcast. What are you talking about? But they loved the topics, and they loved how raw I was. They loved that I wasn't, trying to mask. I just was talking to the people and uplifting them. And they was like, you got to do this. I went to this the brunch that I was telling you about. Shout out to Ebony Tutora. And during this Moving on Your Vision brunch, we had an exercise that we had to do before we left. And it was to write a letter to yourself. In 3 months, where would you be? And this was in maybe November, December of 2018. I wrote a letter to myself saying that in 2019, I was going to start my business. I didn't know what my business was going to be. I had no clue. And what I did was I said, I'm going to have a podcast. I'm going to write a book, and all these little things I wrote down. And she gave us an envelope. We put it in there, sent it on our way. But we also had to name our business, right? And so I sat at the table and I chose 2 names. First one was Let Me Fix My Crown. Second one was Queen's Mentality. Originally, I was going with the Let Me Fix My Crown for like the umbrella, the regular, but it was too long. It was too long. Queen's mentality. It was too long, guys. It was too long. But Queen's mentality spoke to my soul. It spoke
Wow.
to the woman that I am. My name is
Mhm.
Regina. That means queen in Latin. I took it and I ran with
Wow.
it. I
It's
took it and ran
crazy.
with it. Yes.
So when the letter came to you, you said 6 months or 3 months?
It was like 3 months, I think.
So
Yeah.
3 months when the letter came to you, were you in that mindset or did the letter remind you again?
It reminded me again. It
Wow,
reminded me
that's
again. Hmm. I wasn't in the mindset. I was still doing the voice memos, letting everybody check it out. I was saying to myself that I was gonna start my YouTube channel. I was gonna do all these great things, but procrastination, um, analysis paralysis. You get those things, and where you're talking, you having those chatter, the negative chatter in the back of your head, and you're saying you're gonna do these things. Honestly, I didn't move on my vision until the ending of 2019.
So I just want to point out to my listeners, Regina was able to pinpoint the emotion that she was feeling.
Mhm.
Also, it took her a while because of that fear, and luckily, I have people like her that are willing to share their story because you may be in the infancy of your vision and have the fear. You don't have to wait that long before you execute, right? Like it's
Yes.
okay that you feel fear. Even when she finally got the letter 3 months later, the fear was still there. But she's probably like, at this point, God, all right, let me just do it. Because that's the way it is with me. Like I feel like when God like lays something on my heart, I dream about it. I can't sleep. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it. Like I really just say that to myself because I feel like all of us have our unique purposes, but
Mhm.
so many people have not lived accordingly because of that fear. Oh,
Yes.
so bad. So
Yes.
now we're in the end of 2019.
Mhm.
The vision's there.
Mhm. I hired a coach
Mhm.
and
Investing in yourself.
invested in myself. That's very important, Queens. Invest in yourself.
Mhm.
I love investing in myself. It
Mhm.
helps you grow. It helps you build character.
Mhm.
Um, I invest in a coach, and she helps me lay out this plan. We work with each other for 3 months. 20 January 2020, I started Queen's Mentality Empowerment Coaching for Black women. Don't let the name trip you guys up because I empower all women. Okay,
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
voice is for everybody.
Yep, yep. So 2020, you're starting this business, this practice, but
Mhm.
then the pandemic hits. Does that affect your mindset or does that make you propel?
No, it propelled. I propelled. I
Woo!
kept growing. I saw the opportunity to help people through the pandemic. And what I did, how I did that was I utilized my Instagram platform to do like self-love chats and to talk about, the pandemic, COVID, what it means, what it doesn't mean, and how to coexist in a house with your kids all day long. The feelings that you are having around it with anxiety, or with your depression or feeling lonely. These are the things that people who've never had any bouts of depression or any anxiety is at an all-time high right now.
Yeah, it is.
Mm.
So even though the pandemic happened, you've
Mhm.
been able to like push through.
Yes.
And when people work with you, what does it look like for them on the other end?
The transformation at the end is, for me, is all about healing the brokenness inside of you. And so, it's a journey through self-reflection. And I tell people that all the time because I don't think that, you know, we fully understand that it's okay to build your confidence. It's okay to accept yourself. It's okay to forgive and let go of your past trauma and heal. Those are things that is normal, and that's what I aim to do. That's my mission, to get to the core. We do various exercises. We do meditation if to help you relax. Meditation is not for everybody. But it's to help you relax and help calm your mind so that you're able to A, express yourself, but B, also feel your feelings. I'm big on that because sometimes we feel some type of way, but we don't want to feel that type of way. So we
Or we don't
try to
even
hide.
know how to we don't even know how to name them. Like, most of
Hmm.
us, growing up, if I was sad, my mom would be like, "Yo, what you sad for?" Like, there's no reason to be sad. So a lot of us have normalized like stuffing our feelings, and
Hmm.
but they're showing up in our behaviors. They're showing up when we're not living out our purpose. They're showing up in our toxic relationships. They're showing up
Hmm.
in our workplace. Like, they're showing up, so it's going to
Yes,
manifest whether you want to acknowledge it or not. It's going to come out, right?
I agree. It does. It always does. And I, I think I was listening to Charlemagne the God, and he
Mhm.
said this, and it hit. You cannot heal what you do not reveal.
Yes.
Okay. And as a counselor in training, as this clinician that's about to be emerging in this world, you cannot heal from what you do not reveal. You cannot help yourself grow. You Because you won't say it. You won't feel it. I am When you said, people don't know how to feel it, and you spoke about when you was a child about sadness and your mom. I used to write how I felt. Writing for me is big, and so I created a daily wellness check, and it's for your mental, your emotional, and your physical. And you just draw little lines and you say how you feel. I feel sad, I feel this way, da da da. And then at the bottom you say why you feel those ways.
Mm.
And I give that's an exercise that I give to my clients to help them express themselves better.
That's good. And the why part is important, because
Hmm.
even if we identify it, we can just allow it to consume us. But
Hmm.
if we could say, like, I feel this way because X, Y, and Z, then it can allow us to do something about it. It can allow us to challenge it, right? It can allow
Yes.
us to do so much more. So we're not just sitting with this feeling,
Yes.
which is a powerful thing to do, because now you feel like you're in the driver's seat of your life. I
Hmm.
think a lot of times our feelings allow us to believe that we're not in the
In
driver's seat.
control.
So
Mhm.
many things are just happening to us and we don't know which way to go. Does that
Yeah,
sound accurate?
that sounds very accurate. I think you
Mhm.
hit that on the nose.
Mhm, mhm. So that sounds amazing. Now, the journal that you created, when did you create this journal?
Oh, wow. In 2019, wait, nope. 2020.
Sh-
I forgot we're in a new year, guys.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yep.
So in 2020, I believe in the summer, so maybe around August or something, I released it on Amazon. It's called the Let Me Fix My Crown Self-Reflection Journal. And it has 31 prompted journal guides, so that, for us, for some people, it's hard to write your thoughts. And that's okay. So sometimes you need a little push. And so I have little prompts in there to get you started with positive quotes.
Oh, nice. Now, what was the process like for you to like create that? That's pretty amazing.
Um, I just felt like, when I started journaling, I had did like a survey on Instagram, and I asked people, how do you journal? And a lot of them said no. And I said, well, why? I think it was about maybe 70% of the poll said no. And I asked them why. They was like, because I can never write down how I feel. Like, I get stuck and I'm just looking at a blank page. That for me prompted me to create something that helped you discover yourself, self-reflection. And I started writing down questions that I thought were important to help women, dig a little deeper. And I have little messages in there. I should have brought the journal with me off of my bookshelf, but I didn't think about that.
No, it's okay. And the people that are listening to this, I'm going to have a link for it in the show notes. I think that's like really amazing. And for my listeners, listen to Coach G. Most of what you talked about, self-reflection, which I believe is the most powerful thing we can do, because we're humans, we're going to make mistakes. But
Mhm.
imagine if we reflected on our day to day and how much we can learn from it, how much we can grow from it. So I'm assuming self-reflection has been a big part of
Yes,
your journey and a part of your practice when you're working with your clients.
it has, and it does. I believe self-reflection is the key to building a better you. You
Mhm.
can't become somebody else or better yourself if you don't know what your problem is. If you don't take that look inside that little closet or where you're hiding all your drama or your burdens or your trauma in, you got to open that closet up and see what's up in there. Like you
Yep.
really do. You got to go and see. You got to go dig it out and figure it out. I'm a strong believer in that. Sometimes we hide things away because we don't want to deal with them right now. Um, and for me, I used to do that, and I had to really come to terms with like me stuffing everything in this back closet and thinking it's going to magically go away, and it doesn't go away.
Doesn't. It's still there. Whether, and like I said earlier, whether or not you want to acknowledge it, it's going to show up. And the
Mhm.
more you start to self-reflect, the more you'll start to see the ways that it shows up. And it'll make you more passionate about doing something different because once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? Like
Yes.
it's just, I mean, we survive well because when we're bleeding, we're going to add a band-aid. We're going to work on our wound. If our hand is swollen, we're not just going to let it swell up until it falls off. We're going to do something about it because we can see it. The
Mhm.
internal stuff we can't see. So I think a lot of times we pretend or we try to act like it's not there, but you have been with you your entire life. Your body keeps the score. It does not forget. So everything that Coach G is saying is so on target.
Yeah.
Now, for Coach G, I know we just entered 2021, but what does 2021 look like for you? And how is the podcast going that you haven't mentioned, but tell people about the podcast.
Oh, so guys, I do have a podcast, as Celeste
She
just
does.
mentioned. It's called the Let Me Fix My Crown podcast. My podcast is basically helping you get your life together, get your shit together. Your crown is your life. And so I focus on the 5 elements that, affect our life, that being our mental, our emotional, our physical, spiritual, and financial wellness. And throughout my podcast or the episodes, you'll hear me talk about different elements or focus on different elements because I think that's a way to, keep you in tune with or in alignment with who you are as a human being. Just keep you rooted. We are all going to go through those problems, but your 5 elements keep you in place. And once one of them is out of alignment, everything is out of alignment. Your
Mhm.
finances ain't together, everything
Exactly.
ain't together.
And one thing about being able to listen to Coach G's podcast, as you heard her mention earlier in the podcast, one of the things that allowed her to be where she is her environment. And your environment is just not the people that you surround yourself around, but also the things that you choose to do. So one thing you can always find me doing, whether I'm typing notes, whether I'm exercising, I have something positive in my ear, and so my spirit is constantly being filled, right? Like it's a choice. A lot of people say like, "Oh, social media is ruining everything," or this is, and it's just like it's a choice for me to click on the news. It's a choice for me to click on the things on social media. It's a choice for me to pop on Coach G's podcast. And so, like, if you can really be mindful of what you're listening to and what you've allowed in your ear,
Mhm.
it can really, really start to shift your mindset around your life and your destiny for your life.
Yes.
So 2021, what is it looking like for Coach G? Do you have any big plans?
I have some big plans. I am focusing. I just did my 2020 It's a Wrap episode on my podcast, and basically I recapped 2020 in a nutshell for Queen's Mentality and the Let Me Fix My Crown brand. But also what I did was I let, my listeners know what my 3 goals were for 2021. And that is, I'm going to let y'all in on a secret. It's to get my credit score to 800. That's number
Woo!
one. Number 2 is for me to take my business and my brand to the next level. Now, I can do that a couple of ways, but that is branching out more, getting more visibility, networking, probably put in my podcast on live stream so that you guys can interact with me a little bit better. And, just branching out a little bit more, taking an extra little step with that. I hope I get I'm hoping and praying for some speaking engagements in 2021. So that's what the managers in the background are working on for Coach G. That's not for me.
Nice.
And my third and final one is to get more organized. I'm already organized, but I just felt like, I could be a little bit more organized in my day-to-day activities, because I am, I multitask a lot. I have a lot of things going on, with the coaching, with the podcast, with, graduate school, in a 9 to 5. There's a lot of things that go on in my day-to-day life. So sometimes I'm booked and I'm swamped. Booked and busy should be my slogan.
But you're still caring for yourself.
Oh, of course. Self-love to the max, baby.
If you should see her face. She was looking at me like I was crazy. Like, of course I am. What kind of question is that? I know. I just want the listeners to know, because some people just be busy and booked and not taking care of themselves.
No. Self-love is at the top of my list. It's a priority. My mental health and my mindset is a priority. It's at the top of my list. My inner peace is at the top of my list. I'm a strong believer in caring for myself. I do make me time for me. That consists of lashes, eyebrows, the works, masks. COVID has shut stuff down in New York. So I don't get to go to the spa as often as I used to, but I make an at-home spa for me, because that keeps me centered and grounded.
Yes, that's awesome. Well, you are amazing. I can't wait for your live streams. You need to do it. I think you are an amazing speaker and a motivator. Listening to your story, like, gives me chills. I love going through people's stories, because where you are now is not where you started. And even with your business, it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to do this, let me do it. And you had to invest in that brunch that you went to, right?
Yes.
Like, there's so many investments you've made. And then a big thing I really want the listeners to know about is this calling that you talk about. It may sound like weird or foreign to people, but believe me, there are signs. Like, I grew up in church, and I think that, like, I used to always think, like, watching the movies, like, God speaks to you and you're supposed to hear this crazy voice. As I grew older, I realized it's not about a voice. It's about look at around and look at, there's signs everywhere. And the moment we make space to be still, we will actually be able to see it, and it all will start to make sense. I promise you. Like, I promise you, when you make space to be still, that reflection piece, it's all going to come into alignment.
Stillness is power, queen.
Yep.
Stillness is power. And when you speak about stillness, now I grew up in a church as well. Stillness for me, it took me a long time to get still and be comfortable with stillness and silence. And I was listening to something a while back. I don't remember exactly when, but it stuck with me. I was listening to Joel Osteen, and he was talking about the waiting room. The waiting room, and how God has you in his waiting room, because guess what? You're not ready yet. And so all the things that you want to do, and you're trying to get out there, and you're trying to do these things, you need to be in this waiting room, sis. You need to be in this waiting room until you are ready. It's like an oven.
Yeah.
You ain't done yet. So he ain't going to let you out yet.
Love it.
You understand what I'm saying? You may think you're ready, but you're not ready for that promotion. You may think you're ready, but you're not ready to build that business. There are lessons that you have not yet learned that you have to still learn. And that, for me, was my wake up, because there were a lot of things that I knew that I wanted to do, but I wasn't ready. I couldn't have done this in my 20s. I'm 34. I turned 34 on the 29th of December. I'm not shy about my age, guys. But the things that I'm doing now, I could not have done it. I had the voice, I had the knowledge and the wisdom. And I thank my grandmother for that. But I could not have done this when I was 21, 25. I wasn't ready for that. I was too busy at the club. I was too busy. I was too busy at the club. I was too busy getting into, shenanigans, drama, and things like that. I was still in that waiting room. And God said, well, when you finish with this, I got something special for you. So when those callings hit, I knew he was talking. He said, you're ready. You come up out this room now. I need you to get moving. There's something I need you to
Nice.
do for me. Mm-hmm. So be still, queens.
Nice. I love it.
Listen. Listen to that calling. Be still. Get
Yes,
real quiet and silent. It's gonna work for you. I'm
that is
telling
a
you.
powerful, powerful, powerful testimony. For people that are listening to this, and I'm gonna have her let us know where people can find you, but also go to the show notes and you'll be able to just click on the link so that you can actually click on it and go directly to the site or to the Instagram. Tell people how they can find you.
Okay, so one platform is Instagram. So I'm on Instagram daily, and that's underscore Queen's Mentality underscore coaching. Um, my Facebook is Regina Saunders. That's just my regular name, but I have a group on Facebook where you can join for free. It's called the Self Love Corner. You can type it in the search engine; it'll pop up. I'm in there all the time as well. You can find me on my podcast. You can come
Mm-hmm.
visit me on my podcast at the Let Me
Mm-hmm.
Fix My Crown podcast. I upload a new episode every Wednesday. And
Mm-hmm.
so come by. I answer DMs. If you have any questions, you can hit me in the DMs or you can send me an email. I know Celeste has my website down here. You can also, book a free discovery call with me on my site. So
So
head over
just
there.
for people listening, it's thequeensmentality.com. Thequeensmentality.com.
Yes. Oh, I didn't know they couldn't see that. The
No,
queensmentality.com.
so some people are avid, like just audio listeners, like listen
Oh,
to the
yeah.
podcast, and some people may pop on YouTube. So I'm always like cognizant of that, and I tell them about both. Okay, this was good. Anything else you think we left out or that you want to mention?
Listen, 2021, 2021. That's because we're in 2021, right?
Yeah,
it trips me up. We only 6 days in, guys. I'm
I know.
sorry. My message would be start anew,
Mm,
queens. Start anew, queens, because it's a new year, it's a new day, and there's nothing but new opportunities for you going forward. So
amen.
whatever was in 2020, all that rotten, toxic drama back then, leave it right over there. We
Yep.
still dealing with COVID, and that's okay.
Hmm.
But what I want y'all to do is to start anew. Whatever it
Hmm.
is, begin anew. Because it's a new year.
Absolutely. And we're going to end it on that. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please give Coach G a follow. Again, you can find everything in the show notes. Make sure you check out her podcast. I'm a firm believer on surrounding ourselves with things that are going to feed our spirit. And I know that Coach G's platform will definitely feed your spirit. I tell people if you're hungry, you go to the refrigerator. When you're struggling and your spirit is empty, where do you go? And so really be mindful of that so that you have like your system. I look at podcasts, exercising, meditation as my medicine. And so make sure you have your prescription and your medicine that you're taking every day because that's how you live and not just be in survival mode. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you later.
Okay.